And sadly, yeah, we all, a lot of people, when they have trouble, when they're using. I mean, I look back at my life and every breakup, every car crash, every phone loss, every hardship, I could look back and see that drugs and alcohol were involved in some way. So getting sober, of course, really changes, you know, your life's dynamic, because all those problems that you caused because of using are going to be gone, and if that's what you really want, then you have to do what it really takes, and that means it's going to take some work.
That was Freddy Negrete, and this is the SHAIR Podcast.
It's time for the SHAIR Recovery Podcast, where we bring you amazing life-changing success stories from addicts and alcoholics all over the world who share their inspiring journey in recovery. And now, here's your host, O.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the SHAIR Podcast, and today it is an honor to have Freddy Negrete joining us on the show. This man gave me my very first tattoo 25 years ago, and when his publicist reached out for me and asked if I would consider having Freddie on the show and started to explain to me who he was, I immediately sent him an email. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me right now? Freddie just launched a brand new book. It's called Smile Now, Cry Later: Guns, Gangs, and Tattoos, My Life in Black and Gray. He is an unbelievably talented black and gray tattoo artist. He spent many years in prison cultivating his talent and has had a roller coaster ride, to say the least. A life that many of us would categorize as a Hollywood movie with a spectacular happy ending. For me, this is one of those interviews where I could have just kept talking to Freddie for hours because he's such an interesting guy. And there's so much more I wanted to know. So let's dive into Freddie's story. But first, if you'd like to know what's the best way to help support the show, here are a few of the best ways to do so. Number one, you can donate to the SHAIR Podcast. And to do so, you simply go to the website, www.theshairpodcast.com, and click on the top right corner of the website that says donate, or you can click on any of the yellow banners throughout the website that say donate via PayPal, and it will take you to our donate page. All the donations we collect go exclusively to promote, grow, and produce the podcast. So once again, if you have the wherewithal to do so and would like to donate to the SHAIR Podcast, then go to the website, click on the donate button, and make your donation today. The second way to help support the show is to subscribe on your mobile device. If you listen to the SHAIR Podcast on your phone and you click subscribe, you not only get notified every time a brand new episode is available, you also help support the show. When you subscribe, it dramatically increases our rankings on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, as well as other podcast platforms on the internet. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and review, because I love to read those reviews at the beginning of every episode. And speaking of reviews, this week's review comes from Tatiana1641. The title is Inspiration. I love listening to this daily. I can never get enough of your episodes, and the ones that truly impact me, I end up saving and listening to them again and again. HP, baby. Lately, I have been getting just an outpouring of emails and private messages about the recent podcast episodes. I've had some really amazing guests, Wes Chapman being one that I got a ton of messages from, just thanking me for how impactful it was for them based on Wes's vulnerability and openness. And that's what this is all about. The way we help others is by becoming vulnerable ourselves and creating space for others to become vulnerable as well. So, Tatiana, thank you so much. And thank you so much for all the listeners. I love you guys. HP, baby. And the third way to support the show is by joining the SHAIR Recovery Network. That is our SHAIR Podcast private group on Facebook with thousands of members in recovery that are all there for one common purpose: to carry a message of hope. We are a positive, loving, supportive community of individuals who live amazing lives and are here to inspire others to do the same. If you are unsure about what your next step will be towards recovery, then start by joining us in our private Facebook group. So go to Facebook, type in the SHAIR Recovery Network, and become a part of the solution today. Now, a quick message from Transitions Daily and then on to the show. Would you like to join a free, anonymous online group that offers a daily topic email with popular recovery resources accompanied by a secret Facebook group for discussion? Then go to dailyaaemails.com for more information about Transitions Daily. And don't forget to share dailyaaemails.com with friends, in meetings, and with sponsees in recovery. Hey, Freddie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I'm really excited to have you in the show, brother. How you feeling today?
Great.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today we have Freddy Negrete joining us on the SHAIR podcast. And Freddie is profiled on numerous TV programs and magazine articles. East LA gang member Freddy Negrete became an orphan at the age of 2 and at 2.5 years old when his parents, both Pachuco gangsters, ended up in prison. One for armed robbery and the other one for manslaughter. A gifted and natural-born artist, Freddie was transported from the confines of prison cells where, using homemade tattoo machines, he arted his craft to become a world-renowned pioneer of black and gray realism. And he also gave me my first tattoo in Isla Vista, California when I was 20 years old. I am sure you don't remember that.
You know, that's funny. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Wow,
dude. I thought I'd throw that curveball at you when Steve hit me up for you to be on the show. And he started giving me your bio. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Freddie gave me my first tattoo when I was 20 years. We're talking 25 years ago, brother.
That's a long time ago. Yeah. And those were some crazy days, too. I mean, I was really hiding from the law. And so I chose Isla Vista to do my thing. It was like the perfect hideout. But I eventually turned myself in and opened up a tattoo shop in Santa Barbara, and it was quite successful.
Wait a minute. So when I got my tattoo from you in Isla Vista, you were on the run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dude, it makes it even better part of the story.
Yeah. And Isla Vista, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a crazy little town, college town, and it was a perfect hideout for me, you know? You hardly see any police in there, and nobody knew who I was. So, that's amazing that I tattooed you there.
Dude, how long were you in Isla Vista?
You know, I guess I was tattooing there maybe 6 months, 7 months. And then, you know, I started tattooing a lot of professional people from Santa Barbara, real estate people and construction people. And they all agreed to help me open up a tattoo shop in Santa Barbara. And I felt, you know what, I got to take care of this one thing, you know. And I turned myself in, and they gave me a year in the county jail. Which, you know, the amazing thing, you know, it was a miracle, too. When I got into the county jail, you know, I painted these murals for this sergeant in the receiving part of the jail. And then they went in the computer and gave me an emergency overcrowded release, and I got out in like less than 3 months, and I went straight to Santa Barbara and we opened up our tattoo shop. Rat-a-Tattoo, it was called.
Man, I got to tell you, that blows my mind. As a matter of fact, it was funny because I remember when my wife and I were watching Ink Master Season 2, you came out on the episode. It was Season 2, Episode 8.
Yeah, I was a guest judge. That's right.
And I was like, honey, look, that's the guy who did my tattoo 25 years ago. So when I told her I was going to be interviewing you, she was like, get out of here. I go, you will not believe this. This is wild. It's crazy. So you ended up, so you turned yourself in and you got early release. And then that's when things really started to turn around for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, listen, we're going to go into the full story of your life. But first, I just want to find out, or I want you to tell our listeners, what do you do today? What is your normal daily routine today, including recovery?
Well, you know, I don't have this big, exciting life, but, you know, because I've chosen to work a lot right now because I have this new focus. Since I've been sober, I have this new focus on my art. And, you know, during my using years, a lot of things changed and I had a little catching up to do. But, you know, so my day starts, I'm I really hold fast to the spiritual aspects of of the program. So my day begins with devotion and prayer and a little bit of meditation. And I stopped going to the gym because I recently got a surgery, a defibrillator. So
Really?
but that's part of my story. I'll tell you more about that later.
Okay.
So I'm doing this. I'm going to do this rehab thing, and they're going to set out an exercise program that they feel is would be adequate for me. So then basically I go to work, and so I work from 2 p.m. and depending on the size, I try to do two big tattoos a night. I usually finish about midnight to 2 a.m. So a lot of my time is spent in the tattoo shop. But there's a lot of action in there. I mean, a lot of people. We're a sober shop, so we're always encouraging each other and working with each other in that way. Things come in waves, like all of a sudden everybody's got marital problems or somebody goes out, So that's kind of my day. Throughout the week, I lead group therapies, at a couple of rehabs. Those are really good for me. I enjoy those so much. And then, I have my, my temple. That's the rehab that I went to. It's called Beit Teshuva, but it's also a Jewish temple, so I chose to stay connected, there. That's one of the places where I lead groups and my home meetings there, L'Haim, on Thursday nights. And I also go to Shabbos. Our Shabbat ceremony is kind of like a AA meeting because everybody there is, like involved with recovery. So anyways, that's kind of my day.
Okay, all right. So did you convert to Judaism?
No, I didn't. My mother's Jewish.
Okay.
My mother, she was part of that Jewish community that was in East LA in Boyle Heights. And it's an interesting story because, the Jewish community there, they didn't get along much with the Hispanics all around them. They ended up leaving Boyle Heights, but one of the things that bothered them the most, I think, was when their daughters would go with the Suave Pachuco guys. So that was my mom and my dad, and she became a Pachuca gangster. And
your mother did?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, so yeah, we got to save that for diving into your story. I want all of that. So real quick, how much clean time do you have and when is your anniversary date?
My anniversary date is December 20th, and so I'm coming up on 11 years.
I love it, man. That is fantastic. I love it. All right, so before we dive completely into your story, Freddie, just real quickly, tell us how old you were the first time you drank or used drugs, and more importantly, how did they make you feel?
Probably the first time I was 12 years old, and I was in a foster home, and I kept running away. So they sent me to a boys' home, and then I went on a weekend furlough, with the foster home, and we went up to Big Bear, and my foster sister's boyfriend was a real scumbag guy. Anyways, so he went with us on the trip, and he's telling me, so they tell me that your foster parents are saying that you're dabbling around with drugs, and I hadn't, but I said yes, I told him, oh yeah. So anyways, he gave me some pills, like some Red Devil. He gave me one of those Red Devils, and I was like really out of it. And I remember we were at some park, and he goes, man, you got to smoke this. So this is a long time ago in the 60s, because it's called Vietnam, Vietnamese weed or something. Anyways, I smoked it, and I got terribly sick. And it was the worst, I don't know what happened between the drugs and smoking it, and I ruined the whole vacation, and we left, and it took me straight back to the boys' home. So my first time getting high was not a good experience.
No, it doesn't sound like it at all. All right, sounds good. All right, so we'll springboard from that. So what we'll do right now is I want to turn this show over to you, Freddie. I want you to share with us your story, the battle against drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life, when you hit rock bottom, and then finally your journey into recovery up until today. So please, Freddie, take it away.
Well, a big part of my story is being, a cholo gangster. I went from, the whole foster care and boys' homes and all that stuff, and I joined the gang, and I was very involved with gang activity. I spent most of my juvenile years, in confinement, juvenile hall, camp, youth authority, and I remember then. Yes, I used to drink and everything, but the older homeboys, when they would get on heroin, seeing them nodding out around the neighborhood, and then they didn't want to be involved with any of the gang activities. They, I make it sound like it's a fun thing. Anyway,
Right.
they didn't want to be involved with our activities. So, and then also fraternizing with the enemy. Like they would be getting together with the other drug addicts. So I kind of looked down on heroin and those things, but I ended up being a heroin addict anyways. But anyways, then I went to when I was in youth authority, I got in big trouble in there, and they gave me 3 years added to my time and put me in this program called Tamarack. And what Tamarack program was, it was like a lockup program for like the criminally insane kids. It was like there was no more hope for us. And at first they would send us to state prison for 90 days. And then they send us back to this old dungeon-like building in Preston, California, or in Ione, California, at Preston School of Industry. It was like the oldest youth authority building that was being used, and it was like a dark dungeon, with big iron doors and big granite blocks. But in there, the staff had their policy towards us was one of, if you guys don't kill each other, we'll let you do whatever you want, basically. So they brought us pornography, and they let us tattoo. And we got the plans for the tattoo machines, from I remember Susanville Prison, how to make a tattoo machine out of a cassette motor. And with the staff letting us do whatever we wanted, we made some really good tattoo machines, tattoo designs. I was already an artist, all that time. My father's an artist, so I was born with art ability. I really developed that ability, all the time being in jail all the time and learning Chicano art and really getting good at it. So for the next 3 years, I just tattooed every day, and even the staff members would lock in my cell and get tattooed, so I got really good at it, It's funny because whenever I do interviews, especially I was on this show called Prison Inc. And when I told them that the staff let us tattoo in there, it didn't go along with their narrative, because their thing was, oh, you always had to hide from the guards and this and that, So they didn't want to use that part, but it was so significant. I mean, I don't think I would ever, if I didn't go through that program, and if it wasn't in that way, I wouldn't be who I am today. But anyways, so when I got out, I immediately set up shop, in my apartment in Pico Rivera. And in East LA, they had opened up a tattoo shop that was attempting to serve, all the gangsters in East LA. They wanted their tattoos to look like they were done in prison.
Right.
We hated, traditional style tattooing, It was cartoony and it was simple, and we didn't like color. Of course, in prison, we didn't have any color. So that's how, the black and gray thing developed,
Right.
So anyways, I contacted Güero, Jack Rudy, or, he contacted me, and we started communicating, and I was sharing, my design ideas, and he was showing me what they were doing professionally. But they didn't offer me a job or anything, because tattooing back then was really run by bikers. There was no Chicano, especially a cholo gangster guy, working at any tattoo shop anywhere, So anyways, when the owner of the shop, Good Time Charlie, when he sold it to Ed Hardy, and Ed Hardy was a different kind of a tattoo artist. He wasn't a biker. He was an educated man, a gifted artist, and he was propelling tattooing into a new era, with introducing the Japanese style to the West. and then he discovered, the black and gray, and he was promoting black and gray to the tattoo world at the time. And he said, well, we got to get this guy, Freddy Negrete, in here. And so he could relate to these people. And, so he hired me. And then Jack Rudy and I went on to, along with Ed Hardy and other names, like Mark Mahoney and Bob Roberts. And, we introduced this new style to the tattoo world called black and gray realism. And, so my life had changed. I went from gangster to all of a sudden having a job. I always thought that I was going to be a thug, a criminal,
Right.
The thought of not being one never even crossed my mind, and so my life had changed, and so I decided I should get married and, have a house and have a child and all these things. And it seemed like, and something to enhance, all this goodness that's happening around me was a little bit of heroin, And so I started chipping and eventually got strung out and my life got destroyed and my marriage was destroyed and what happens when you use heroin. And at that time, I came in contact with a group of ex-gangsters or whatever, the guys that I knew from prison and from the system and from the streets. And these guys were carrying around Bibles and preaching God, and I joined them, and I converted to Christianity and I was attending Victory Outreach and had a falling out there. It's funny, because, when I first accepted Christ, they were telling me, oh, you know what? You can't be tattooing. That's a sin. And I was like, what? I mean, that's all I know.
Right.
That's the only thing I know, that's a sin. You're going to have to quit tattooing, Ugh. And to them, it was an easy thing. Just quit.
Right.
For me, I was quitting my whole life, it was the most profound decision that I had to make, and but I made the decision. I went ahead and quit. And the pastor of that church had said, look, you're a great artist. You could work. I'm going to put you on staff full time. Plus, I had printing skills that I learned in Youth Authority, and they had an old offset printer in the basement. So I went in there and got that offset running. And I was in the basement drawing up leaflets and they call them tracks, little booklets that you give out,
mm-hmm.
and printing everything up for them, posters and flyers and leaflets and tracks. And so like a couple of months went by, and I remember telling one of the deacons, the pastor said that, I was going to be full time. I had went back with my wife and everything and was trying to rebuild my life. And I was like, I need to get paid, And of course he's going, brother, you're doing all this for God and everything. I go, I know, but the pastor said he was going to put me on full-time staff. And, I need to work, I need to make money. I need to support my family. Anyway, so they arranged a meeting for me to have with the pastor, and the pastor's like, yeah, okay. You know what we're going to do? We're going to get you one of these government CETA slots. And it was a program the government was doing for poor neighborhoods back in the day by funding community centers and churches for them to give jobs to local kids and everything, So I thought a CETA slot, well, because they're only good for like 3 months and it's below minimum wage. But anyways, I agreed. And then it turned out that I didn't have the correct address. I lived in an area, because I lived with my mother-in-law. I lived in an area that the CETA slot wouldn't use, They only do poor areas.
Right.
And so he wanted me to lie, about my address, And, that rubbed me the wrong way, really. I argued with him about it, and I couldn't see that, because here they're telling me that tattooing is a sin, and I didn't see it really anywhere clearly in the Bible that tattooing is a sin. But I know that, lying is one of the 10 commandments,
Yes.
And then lie to the government, it's just, So anyways, I left that church, you know. I couldn't see it. So now I didn't have no job. I wasn't a tattoo artist, but I met these people at Youth for Christ. They suggested I go to college, so I went to Azusa Pacific University, and I got a degree in biblical literature, and went out to, you know, start my own thing, my own church and things like that. I started doing a lot of street preaching and reaching out to gangsters and thugs and heroin addicts. And then I had a fall, you know, so I went back to using, I backslid, as they call it.
Yeah, relapsed.
And, yeah, relapse. There you go. Anyways, so eventually, you know, I went back into tattooing and picked things up from there. I stopped using, but yet I was a chipper, you know, like picnics, holidays. Those were the best times for me to use, you know.
Right.
But I still, you know, ended up getting strung out eventually. And then I go on the methadone program, and then I'd be on methadone for a year, and then I'd get off. You know, it was that cycle. You know, the real change in my life and when I really discovered God and recovery and all these things came way later, when my son, my youngest son, was murdered in gang violence.
Oh.
And it was this whole thing where I felt so guilty and responsible because, number one, he was living with his mother up in Grover Beach, you know, Central California, a nice place. He wanted to come live with me. I went to court, had a custody battle, got custody of him, brought him to LA. And then I realized I wasn't much of a good father, you know. I kind of let him do his thing. I was more involved with what I was doing. At that time, I was using speed, you know, and drinking. And anyways, he ended up getting murdered. So you can imagine the amount of guilt that I felt.
Was he in a gang?
Yeah, the same gang as me.
So he came in, you took him in, you were distracted, and he found solace with the gang members.
Yeah. And I think he was, you know, because a lot of those gang members, they were the kids of my homeboys, you know?
Right.
And it was kind of like they were carrying on the scene, you know, and I think he was like following in my footsteps, which, you know, made it all worse, you know, so.
Would it be okay to tell us what happened?
Well, you know, it was like a drive-by shooting, you know, it was a gang conflict.
Oh, so it was just one of those things.
Yeah.
Gang related.
It was a gang related shooting. Yeah. So anyways, you know, I was devastated, you know, and then I started using heavy, and I had a friend, you know, like, he's like a wealthy guy, you know, he owns all these construction business and stuff, but, you know, he was doing his own escape thing, and he came down and rented an apartment in LA, and together him and I just dosed ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
And I would get away, you know, I would go down the street and work at the tattoo shop, do a couple of tattoos, and then just go right back to use. I was using very heavy, and at the same time having medical problems. So I got congestive heart failure, you know, because when I got sick, I had to go to the doctor. And at the same time, I was trying to fight a case because I got arrested for possession, which was a felony at the time. And so, you know, and I started the medication, you know, for the congestive heart failure. But then I stopped taking it because I was using so much drugs, you know.
Yeah.
And so then I violated that Prop 36 and I went to prison. So in prison, I still kind of like felt sick, but at least I was getting the medication and I wasn't getting high. And then I found myself tattooing again, you know, in prison with one of those little homemade machines for soup. I never thought I'd be working for soup. Anyways, and so then I did 2 years, and then when I came out, Mark Mahoney at Shamrock Tattoo had told me, hey, come over here and work, because we worked together at Tattoo Mania on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And then he opened up his shop down the street, Shamrock Tattoo. And, so when I got out of prison, I had my customers and I started tattooing there, but nothing changed, And I didn't even think about changing anything. I went right back to using immediately, So being a tattoo artist makes it a little bit easier to, support a habit because you get paid cash every day, so you have the cash to get your drugs that you need for the day. You don't have to go out stealing or trying to get money advanced or whatever. I had this habit going, but then I felt sick again. Like I was feeling like really sick, but I didn't really want to say anything. But man, I couldn't even breathe at night,
Right.
like heart was enlarged. And anyways, I got arrested again like clockwork. And when I went into the county jail, the withdrawals along with my existing condition just wreaked havoc on my body. I mean, I couldn't even take a couple of steps. They put me in a wheelchair at the county jail.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't even take a couple of steps without gasping for air. And I couldn't lean back, so what happened, my heart was so enlarged and it was pumping at under 10%. So my body wasn't getting any oxygen, and my lungs were in failure. My liver was in failure. And I was a real mess. And, I remember, like sitting right there. And I remember I told my son, I didn't want anybody to visit me because I didn't want him to see me like that. I had lost so much weight and my complexion was like gray. And I was certain that I was going to die in there. And I was like, what a life, man. What have I done to myself? It's one thing to get sick, but it's another thing, drug-induced heart failure, It's like,
Yep.
I did this to myself, Plus, and I still had all the regrets with my son. I mean, I was a mess, but I'd look around me and see these other inmates, laughing, doing push-ups and everything, and I was just so depressed, And then I had a heart attack, and they took me to the county general, the general hospital, the jail ward. And I was there for a week, and they sent me back to the jail, in a wheelchair. But, the sheriffs in there, I always tattooed sheriffs. I knew them from when I was in the county jail. They always knew me, and whenever I was out, they'd come to me and I'd tattoo them, or I'd design things for them, or I'd paint murals in the jail, But anyway, so they would go to the hospital and take me out and put me in the Paisa dorm. The Paisa dorm is where they put the immigrants, the undocumented workers, and they put them in a dorm because they did all the work in the jail. They couldn't have the homies or anybody else out because they'd be out trying to start riots and selling drugs and everything. But the Paisas, it's funny, I was in their dorm with them. They were so cool, but they were serious about their jail jobs, and they would have meetings and reprimand each other for doing a bad job. So it was amazing.
That's awesome.
So anyways, I wish we all had that work ethic. So anyways, so then they sent me back, and the sheriffs would get me out of the hospital, put me in the Paisa dorm. They'd bring me food from the outside. They saw how sick I was, and they were trying to help me. And then I had another heart attack and went back to the hospital, and they would always have me on watch. So as soon as I told them, I can't breathe, whatever, they would, make sure that I was out of there quick. And so after the second time and I was back in the jail, I remembered a story, that from my when I was in college, in the Old Testament about this king who, I guess God was angry with him. He sent a prophet to him to tell him, get your affairs in order because your life is over, and your time is up or your number's up, whatever. and that king decided to go over the prophet's head and talk to God himself. And he went in seclusion and he he asked God for more time, and God gave him 15 more years. So that story resonated with me at the time, and I was like, you know what? I want to talk to God. I want to talk to God and ask God for more time, you know? And I needed to be alone somewhere where I could not be distracted and talk to God, you know? And so the only place was up these 2 little flights of stairs to the shower room, and there was nobody up there. And I remember it taking me like a half an hour to pull myself up those stairs, you know? So I made it up there, and I basically said, God, I'm not going to make any promises, you know, because, yeah, we've all prayed, and we're thinking, God, if you do this for me, I'll never do this again, da-da-da-da. And God, I can't make any promises because I know that I'll just break them. But I'm asking you, please, for a little more time to redeem myself so that I won't die right here in this county jail, so that I could be an example to my son, you know, my living son. And, you know, and it was short, sweet, and direct, you know. And afterwards, I really felt like I talked to God, you know. I felt more like than just getting on your knees and praying. I felt like I had a conversation with God. But the next morning, I had a heart attack.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
So it's like that big stamp, you know, coming down, bam,
yeah.
request denied. You know?
Oh, shit. Yeah, right?
And, you know, that's how I should have felt. You know, I should have felt like my request was denied. And I remember, you know, when they were putting me in the ambulance, and of course they're giving me the nitroglycerin and trying to find a vein for the IV. And, you know, it was the same ambulance drivers that took me to the hospital, you know, because the jail has like their own drivers. And I remember that he was going, don't ever feel bad about going to the hospital. You have a legitimate reason. You know, he's telling me this, and I was like, you know what, you're the coolest dude. When I get out, I want you to go to Shamrock Tattoo. I'm going to give you a free tattoo. For some reason, I felt like I was going to get out one day. All the other times, and the whole time I was in jail, I was certain that I was going to die. Now, all of a sudden, I was certain that I was going to live. And I don't know. My feeling is that faith came from God. You know, like, I'm a man, and I'm a simple man, and I don't understand much. And when I need faith, I think God gives, you know, when we need faith, God gives us the faith that we need, you know, as a gift. And I really felt different. So, you know, I went to the hospital. I was in the hospital about 3 weeks that time. But with each passing day, and I was taking like 15 different meds, you know, with each passing day, I was feeling better and better. And after the 3 weeks, the doctor was saying, you know, you're really showing some good improvements. We're going to send you back to the jail. So I went back to the jail, and, you know, they put me in the hospital, and then my boys came and got me out, put me back in the Paisa dorm. And everybody was saying, dude, you look so much better. Look at you, you know. And now all of a sudden I could lay back and sleep, you know. Before I had to stay propped up. And you know, I started, you know, I was like really feeling better. You know, I went to the roof, you know, that's where they had the yard time, you know. I even shot a couple of baskets, you know. And so every week they would take me to the hospital, every Tuesday actually, to have the doctors check up on me. So you know, so each week I would go and they'd check on me. So after about 3 weeks, probably the fourth week, you know, I was telling the doctor that I started doing push-ups, you know, and he was going, push-ups? You're doing push-ups? I mean, they had me in the county jail in a wheelchair chrono, you know, and I was telling him, yeah, and then he goes, show me, you know. So I could only do 5, you know, but I went down and did a couple for him. He was going, you know, this is really amazing. And he goes, I'm going to have you come back and we're going to redo all the tests, you know, the echogram and when they shoot the dye, you know, and test my heart, all the initial tests that they gave me. So I went back and I got all the tests. And then the next week I went back, you know, after the test. So when I got there was a bunch of doctors and interns there, you know, and each one took turns listening to my heart and stuff. And it was kind of weird. I was like, you know. And then they all left. And then the one doctor that always sees me, he said, yeah, you know, we all know about, you know, hearts repairing themselves. You know, most of us have never seen it. But here, let me show you your chart. Now he wants to show me my chart. You know, they don't tell you nothing. You know, it's, oh, you're going to show me my chart. Okay. I think the one thing one of the doctors had told me in there was like, I just don't see how you can go on without a heart transplant.
Right.
And you know what I told him? I said, I just don't see how me being a prisoner, they're going to give me a transplant. So anyways, he goes, basically your heart was like this. It was enlarged nearly out of the cavity and it was barely pumping. And you know, your lungs and your liver were in failure. And now your heart has reduced in size, which is very uncommon. And it's now beating at 30% instead of under 10%. And he said 30 to 70% is in the normal range. And I told him, you know what? I think God healed my heart and has given me more time. You know, and the doctor said, I think your body healed your heart and your heart has given you more time. And I was like, whatever, dude.
Right.
Okay, so now so all the while, even after that prayer, I somehow knew in my heart that I was never going to use again. I was convinced of this. And I know you're not even supposed to think like that. And I still didn't know anything about the program or any of this stuff. But in my heart, I felt like I was never going to use again. And, but I just had to find out how. So at the time, once I started recovering, the sheriff deputies are like, hey, the captain wants you to paint a mural on that floor. It was the second floor in the old county jail. I was like, yeah, sure. So I painted this big, beautiful mural, and there was a little controversy because the ACW, whatever, American Civil Liberties Union, had come in because some of the inmates had said that because I did the Archangel Michael with the devil, slaying the devil, because the Archangel Michael is the police patron saint of police officers, right? And I'm, even though I made the devil look like a creature because I made him like dark red, they felt like I was portraying a white European with the head on a black devil, So there was like controversy with that, and the captain himself came and talked to me, and so I redid it, to make it acceptable for everybody. And then he asked me about doing pinstriping on boxcars because they had boxcars races, some outreach program that the sheriff department was doing for kids, So we brought all these boxcars in, and I wrote the kids' names on them, and I pinstriped them. And then he had me do another big mural, like this tombstone mural. So all the while when I was going to court, my public defender was telling me, well, you just have to plead guilty, and they're going to give you the 2 years. And I was like, I don't want to go to prison. I want to go to rehab. And well, they're not going to send you to rehab. And I go, well, I'm not going to plead guilty. And they go, well, they got you dead bang. You were on parole, and they had every right to search you, and they found drugs, What's your defense? And then I said, look, can you just get things postpone it, because what if I get a letter from a sergeant or something, because I was thinking the sergeant, that I would recommend that. She goes, they don't do that. They don't write recommendation letters, you know. And I'm just like, just get me just give me the extension, you know.
Right.
So anyways, so she got me another 2-week extension, because I had already had extensions because of my heart condition. So anyways, I talked to the sergeant, and the captain's name was Captain Homestead. He was running to be the sheriff at one point. So a lot of people know that name. So I told her, hey, do you think Captain Homestead would, talk to me? She goes, what about? And I go, well, I want to see if I can get a letter, because I don't think me going back to prison is going to serve any good purpose. And I really want to go to a rehab, you know? She goes, well, we don't write letters like that. And I go, can you just, arrange for me to talk to him? She goes, well, he's not even here anymore. And she goes, he's been promoted to commander of all the jails. And I was like, oh, wow. And she goes, but if I see him, I'll talk to him. So the next time I went to court, the public defender came in and she goes, I don't know what you did, but the judge dug through all the files, pulled yours out, and said, this guy's going to rehab.
Oh, no.
So I imagine Captain Homestead did something for me.
Right.
And, of course, I'll say God. Captain Homestead would say he did it. But
I'll say God, too.
I'd say God, too. Yes. And so then a friend of ours, the tattoo shop, and the Mark Mahoney's, Andrew Wasser was the head therapist at Beit Yeshuva. And Mark, he had mentioned to Mark, Freddie's mother's Jewish, they'll take him in Beit Yeshuva. Now, Beit Yeshuva, it's a Jewish rehab and it's privately run and everything. That doesn't mean that they won't accept, anybody else. You don't have to be Jewish to go in there. You just have to accept Judaism as one of their 3 prongs of recovery. It's psychotherapy, 12 steps, and Judaism.
Okay.
But because my mother was Jewish and I'm Jewish, it wouldn't be an issue them, getting me in. And so everything went beautifully, and I got into Beit Yeshuva. I went in there and I learned a little bit about my past, heritage of being Jewish, because I wasn't, religious Jew at all. My mom died when I was very young, so I didn't know anything about it. So I got the opportunity to learn a little something of my heritage. I did the 12 steps. I did every aspect of the program. When I went in there, I was determined to do everything they asked me. I was going to go. I'd never been to rehab before. I never even tried to quit, really. My thing was just, I can't be strung out, I can use every once in a while, but I can't be strung out. And that program, how they say it works if you work it, worked amazingly for me. Like my life was just changing right before my eyes. Some of the beneficial things, the therapy, because I really had to learn how to deal with my son's death, and how to deal with the guilt that I felt. When I was on heroin, I didn't care about anything, especially when he first had died. It's like I'd wake up in the morning just bawling my eyes out, feeling like suicide, and I'd do a shot, and I didn't care. I didn't care about nothing, So that, along with a lot of other things, but that was really at the core of what I needed to deal with to learn to stay sober. And so I opened up, and I had to learn to deal with my son's death, deal with the death in general, accept, my part, the reason for me feeling guilty about it, accept that, And now what I do, whether my son can see me or not, I live my every day as if he's watching down, and I want my every move to be one that would make him proud. You know, like, would this, my son's watching me, would this make him proud?
Oh, man.
So it's been quite a journey. Another thing that I, of course, I think the best thing that, a part of the program was the 12 steps. The 12 steps are amazing. And so that's what really gave me the fuel, but other things that really helped me, like that therapy, but also learning a little bit about Eastern meditation, breathing exercises and focusing, learning to focus, and that's one of the things that I really had to do, because I had to focus now on my career and who I am as a person, and what I do, and that brings me up to today.
Man, I got to tell you, brother, that is such a powerful story. And I know that the listeners need to hear this and to know that no matter how far down the rabbit hole you go, when you make that choice to reach out to God and ask for grace, but it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of absolute surrender. It comes from a place of just desperation, where you're willing to do whatever it takes to get clean and sober. And there was no point in your story where I didn't think that once you reached out, that it wasn't God guiding you through the rest of this, guiding you through the rest of your story and getting you to where you are today. That powerful moment in jail where you just think you're going to die, and there's no logical or rational explanation to how your heart repaired itself, except for, there's no question in my mind that, God answered your prayers, man. You're absolutely a walking miracle today.
I believe that. I believe that with all my heart. I mean, I saw it, I experienced it, and the doctors saw it,
Yeah.
They had their own take on it. But, your heart is one of those things that when it's damaged, it doesn't repair itself, like your liver or maybe some of your other organs. So for them to see my heart reverse itself, and it wasn't something that just happened like that, because like I said, I had a heart attack the next day, but it was something that gradually, happened. And all the while, I just felt like God was working in my body. It's, just so amazing.
Yeah. And best part is, after all that, the part about your son, where your life today is an ongoing amends in honor of your son, that he's watching you, and you ask yourself every day, is this honoring my son's memory? And that is a powerful way to not only forgive yourself, but make that true amends to yourself, to the world around you, to your family, to your other sons, to the entire world. Basically, you can take one of the most tragic moments of your life that for some people is going to catapult them into either more drug use or suicide or violence, and you completely went the other way, man. And I think that there's people that struggle with that idea. I was going to ask you how you coped with your son's death and how you forgave yourself, and that's how you did it. And that's another beautiful part of this entire story.
That's really, I think, like I said, that was at the core of it. If I wanted to stay sober and I wanted to do this, then I needed to deal with something that was ripping me to shreds inside and made me not want to face my life. I guess at that point, drugs had become, an escape. There's drugs come in to fill so many voids, like happiness of partying, fun time, or enjoying your work more, or whatever it is. But the bottom line is the thing that really grabs us is the escape part,
Yes.
And it's like when things are going bad, that's usually when people use, when things are going bad in their life, and so I'm thankful, that I saw that I needed to deal with, and I'm thankful for the people that helped me through it and continue to help me through it today. So
Well, I want to springboard into a more positive note. But first of all, I want to just tell the story of when I was in Isla Vista. I was 21 years old. We were on our way, a bunch of us, my sister, her friends, some of my friends. We were on our way to Mexico to spend the weekend in Mexico. I think we're going to Tijuana. And I said, man, I'm going to go and get my first tattoo. And my sister's friends were like, why would you go to Mexico to get your first tattoo? Right? And I was like, I don't know. It just seems like we're going to Mexico. Let me just do it there. And one of my friends said, man, there is a badass tattoo artist that just got out of prison that's doing tattoos. And I said, well, let's go meet with him. So I go over there and you were like, yeah, man. All right. What do you want? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, well, go look at my book over there and see what you want. And I saw this lion head that was really cool. And he's like, all right, well, come back, in a few hours, man. Come back around midnight. And I was like, okay, whatever. Right. I waited till 2:00 in the morning. Oh. Yeah. And it was dude, I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to get this tattoo. Right. And you were down for it too, man. You were like, whatever, let's go. Yeah, just give me a minute. Yeah, I think you were drinking a Heineken and smoking a joint, right? And I just remember thinking, man, I don't know if this is the right move, right? Just and it came out spectacular. It was beautiful. It was beautifully done, black and gray, And I remember you saying, okay, yeah, that's the outline of it, right? But don't worry, I'm going to dial it in. The shading's going to be badass. You're going to like it.
And did I take another break?
No, man. Once you got started, dude, you just jammed through it. It was a beautiful and awesome experience. And I loved it, and I know that was, what you did and how you did it, all the passion of it just came into your work. That's where you find the fulfillment. So, through your journey when, part of it when you were talking about how they said, you can't tattoo anymore. And I'm like thinking, thank God he went back to tattooing. Cause it's one of the things that I love the most. That's why I watch Ink Master so much. How was that experience? That's my favorite show. One of my favorite shows is Ink Master. How was that experience? And are you close with those guys? Are you close with, with Chris Nunez and Oliver?
Oh yeah. I've known those guys for years, but let me just say real fast and then I'll tell you my experience over there. Well, about the, the Christian church saying, oh, you can't tattoo, your body's a temple of the Holy Spirit, and you can't mark your temple and blah, 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 blah. But then, later in Judaism, I realized that, the tefillin, it's the little box that they put on their hand and they wrap that leather strap around their arm and then they put it on their forehead too. It's called a tefillin. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
And there's prayers in that little leather box. Well, it comes from a passage where, God tells his people that I will print the name of Jerusalem on my hand and my forehead so that you will know that I will never forsake you. So if God has a tattoo, then it's okay for me to tattoo. I wonder if it's written in Hebrew.
Oh man, I am down with that.
I don't need justification to do what I do. I feel strong about it, but if anybody ever asks me, I tell them that story. Yeah, about Ink Masters, that was a great experience. Alex, I had just met, but Oliver Peck I knew. He's a legend, and we kind of all know each other because of tattoo shows and things like that. And whenever a new tattoo artist comes on the scene that's really good, everybody wants to know about them and know them, and they talk about them. So among tattoo artists, we have our own tattoo celebrities, but he's always been a really cool guy and always been a friend. And he's a great artist at his style that he does. And then Dave Navarro, he's the one that actually got me on the show. Dave Navarro is a good friend of mine too. And I've done a lot of work on him. And and when we did that episode, it was on my birthday, so the production got me a big cake and stuff. So it was just a lot of fun. And, I always tell myself about reality shows. I don't like reality shows, but I realized the reason I didn't like them was because I wasn't on it.
As soon as you were on it, it was cool, huh?
Yeah, that's what I found out. So I did a few more, like Tattoo Rescue, and then of course our documentaries, Tattoo Nation. We did the big one, Marked, for the History Channel, Prison Inc. So I got the opportunity to do a few things like that, and it's always fun, and I don't mind the reality shows at all, but I especially like Ink Masters. I know, like with some of these shows like Black Ink and LA Ink and things like that, they need drama, like.
Yeah.
So for an artist, like I want to see what tattooing they're doing, and I don't want to see drama, but really people want to see drama. They get into that. So Ink Masters has a different way of portraying the drama.
Yes.
And it's all centered around this competition.
Yes.
And people trying to do their best and be their best, and their mistakes being pointed out, and the humility that we need is learned.
Beautiful.
So I really like that show.
Yeah, and I can imagine that Dave would be one of your biggest fans and customers because he's all black and gray, So yeah, and he's got a lot of great work on him.
He's got good work, but it's all Dave stuff, His tattoos are all really weird, So he'll ask me to do something that I normally wouldn't do, but it doesn't even matter to me because to me, as an artist, yeah, I could try to get everybody to get what I want to do, but then that's not challenging. So I feel like the challenge is when a person says, I want this or that, and I don't know, I kind of want it like that. So I like creating that for them and trying to make their vision, a reality. And if somebody says, wow, you know what, I had it in my mind, but I didn't realize it like this, then, I did my job, So unfortunately, I'm working on a talking canvas that has opinions. Can you imagine a great master working on a canvas that's saying, no, I don't want to. Would you move that over here? Make it smaller.
A talking canvas. It's so true. Get out of your own way, man. Let me do this.
Yeah. So anyways.
All right, that's good. So listen, tell us a little bit about Smile Now, Cry Later. You've got this biography coming out. That was one of the reasons why Steve hit me up. So how did that get started, and when is that going to launch, and what's the story on that?
Okay, well, first of all, it's already been launched, and it's available on Amazon and local bookstores. A lot of independent bookstores are carrying it. And so one of the groups that I don't know if you've heard of Criminal Gangster Anonymous.
No, I have not.
CGA.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it's a real thing, and how everything, like it was AA and then NA and then CA and then different things. But this Criminal Gangsters Anonymous, I kind of like it. It was established on the SNY yards in prison, and their thing is, maybe they're not drug addicts or whatever, but they're addicted to the game, addicted to criminal activity, and that's what keeps drawing them back in. Most of them are dope dealers, as opposed to being dope users, So, anyways, it's a pretty good program, and they got their thing going, and they like to have me speak because I can go into my whole gangster spiel, in prison, and so anyways, so this girl, this friend of mine that I was in rehab with, her grandmother's like this famous personality in England, actually a mobster. And so this guy that was writing a screenplay for a feature they were doing on her was here in California. He's from England, and interviewing her mother, and she met him, and he's a real nice guy. His name was Steve Jones, and apparently she told him, hey, this guy is speaking tonight at this Criminal Gangsters Anonymous meeting. You should come out and hear his story, So he came out and he heard my story. And I was happy to see her. I hadn't seen her in a while, and we all went out, for coffee and something to eat after. And him and I got to talking. He was telling me about the work he was doing on that project and other projects that he's done. He's a screenwriter, and then I started talking to him about. I was thinking about wanting to write a book. He didn't show any interest. like, hey, I'll write it or anything like that. And I don't even think I was, thinking of, I don't think I was telling him about it to approach him about writing it, but it had been in my mind for quite some time. And I was wondering, how can I go about this? Because, I'd love to write a book but I'm not a writer.
Let's just get out. Let's get that out. I'm not a writer.
Anyways, a good talk. Anyway, he's been in recovery for years, a lot of years. And anyways, he was driving up to San Francisco to interview the next person for the book, for the project he was working on. And he said it just hit him like a ton of bricks. You know what? I'm going to write this guy's story. And he gave me a call, when he got to San Francisco, he gave me a call and he said, hey, because we exchanged numbers and everything. He goes, you know what? He goes, I've never written, a biography or anything like that before. I'm a screenwriter, but I want to write your book. And I was like, whoa, okay. And so we got together and we started talking about it. And then we both had to learn, how to go about it from there. But the first thing we did was like 3 years of interviews. We knew what we had to do in order to, get a book published. You need an agent. In order to get an agent, you need a proposal. And so the first thing we did was all the interviews to get the story right. And we took a lot of time on that. And then in the proposal, you had to write a paragraph on each chapter, and then you have to write 2 full chapters. Then you have to say, who's the audience that you're appealing to, who's going to read this book, who can we sell it to, why should this story be told, blah, 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 on and on. And that question, why should this story be told? Because people ask me that question a lot. Like, the first question is, okay, why did you want to write a book? And so I think about those things. First of all, I come from the Chicano gangster cholo culture, the culture that started the lowrider cars, graffiti, the Pendletons and the khakis and all that whole style. And there's a fascination with that, so people want to know about that. And I lived it, so that's a part of my story that is appealing to people. Then there's the whole prison life. People are fascinated with prison life, especially California prison, because, so many things have come out of California prison, not just tattooing, but language, prison talk, just racial barriers, all these things, that come from California State Prison. And so there's that interest, and then there's the tattoo thing, I happen to be considered a pioneer of one of the most popular styles worldwide in the tattoo world, and that's black and gray realism. So there was that. But I always say, but most importantly, it's a story of redemption. It's a story of God. It's a story of a life destroyed and rebuilt, and that's the most important part of this book. And why I want to tell this story is because hopefully I can help somebody else that is in a similar situation. We all have different situations, but it's all the same when you're at rock bottom, and so that's what this book is about. It's redemption. No. And so anyways, and we had trouble along the way, so we did all the interviews, we wrote the proposal, and then we tried to find an agent, and we everyone we reached out to would say, oh, it doesn't look like a fit for us, blah, blah, blah. And then finally the CEO of Fine Print herself had said, you know what, I'm going to represent you guys myself. So when things like that happen, I always feel like that's where God comes in.
Yes.
Like nobody wanted to represent us, And all of a sudden, this woman out of the blue said, I have to do it. And she happened to be the CEO of the company. Then there was trying to find a publisher, which was another beast, because it was the same thing. Nobody wants to do your story, and everybody's writing books, you know?
Yes.
So we wanted a major publisher, you know? But we had another plan just in case, you know. Luis Rodriguez, the author of Always Running, you know, he also wrote the foreword for my book. And he was saying, hey, I got a small press thing, you know, we could, if worse comes to worse, you know, we'll run it ourselves and start getting it out there and see about picking up a publisher, you know, after, you know. So, and then all of a sudden we got a call. Oh yeah, we even had one, like, Powerhouse. They wanted to do the book, but they're saying, you know, we want to do a book, but we want it to be a picture book with your tattoo work and then just some pages of text, you know, telling your story. And Steve and I were like, nah, because this isn't about a tattoo story,
right?
You know, this is about my story, which tattooing has to be, is involved because I'm a tattoo artist, but this is not a tattoo story. So anyways, we turned that offer down. And I remember our agent was saying, look, it's good money up front, blah, 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 you know, like you're turning down a good deal, you know. Anyways, so we turned that down. But then when all hope seemed lost, all of a sudden we got a call, you know, from Seven Stories Press, you know, Random House is their distributor. And, you know, the owner of the whatever, the CEO, I said, look, I haven't even read your proposal, but when my chief editor comes and says we have to do this book, then we do this book, you know. So, anyways, and it does really well, you know, among the tattoo community. I'd like to see more people in the recovery world.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why we have this opportunity, I would like. You know, to reach out to that potential, and then more, you know, with like I have another friend who's telling me that he does work with youth in trouble, like in juvenile halls and things like that. I think it'd be a good outreach tool for them. So, you know, Baystar puts it out, and they do a little bit of promotion. You do some book signings, and you do some talks and things like that, but basically, here's your book, it's your story, it's your legacy, now sell it, you know? So.
I got to tell you, Freddie, every aspect of your story is God. Like, as far as I'm concerned, as you're going along, everything has to do, your life took the needed turn of events the moment you asked him to help you. The minute you asked God to come into your life and to help you, right? And it wasn't a bullshit prayer. It wasn't, you know, hey, get me out of this jackpot and I'm never going to do it again. You know, it came from deep down in your soul. And since then, it's just been a constant series of God shots along the way. I'm a big God guy. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. I have a belief in God. I have a belief in a higher power. And that's the same higher power that I reached out to in the depths of despair where, you know, all hope was lost and I just wanted to die. I just wanted it to end because the pain was just too much and I didn't see any way out. You know, so I was like, either help me get clean or help me get out of here. You know, take me out of this world. And I felt the next day that hand of God reach out to me, and I know you felt that too. It's funny because it starts from the heart attack, but the heart attack was just the catapult. Maybe that was God giving you a new heart. You know what I mean? There's a million ways to look at it, bro.
I do believe though that you know, because one of the things, you know, when I had you know, had that talk with God and everything. I have enough religious background to know that how they say about faith, you know, without faith, it's impossible to please God. And if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could move this mountain and all these, you know, verses. But I strongly believe in my heart that, I knew I didn't have that faith. And I don't think any human does. But because I made that move, because I had enough to even ask him, I believe he gave me the faith that I needed to heal my body,
Yes, absolutely.
And the groups that I have, they're spiritual groups. The one rehab, even calls it that, spirituality with Freddy Negrete. And I found because I've been doing these groups now for like 8 years, but I found that one of the biggest hangups with newcomers and people that don't get the program is the God aspect of it.
Yep.
And I try to do it in a way to steer them away from religion, because I'm not religious at all either, but I'm very spiritual, and I do ask God daily to help me live an upright life.
Yes.
I think there's more to it than just staying sober. It's about making the right decision. It's about how you treat other people, so there's a lot more that has to do with it. But I try to get these kids, get their minds off of religion and to lead them into their own personal experience with God, and they'll discover, a relationship that's a lot different than what most religions prescribe,
Yes.
And there's this. Can I recommend?
Yeah. Let's get to that one. Let's do this. Let's start closing up, Freddie, because I have some closing questions that I have specifically for the newcomers that I want you to answer in hopes to inspire them and give them your words of wisdom. But first, if somebody wants to get tattooed by Freddy Negrete, or if somebody wants to get your book, what's the best way for them to find you? What's the name of your shop? What's your website? Give us all your information.
Okay, so my Instagram, I'm going to put that out there first because that's the best way to see the work that I'm doing. But my Instagram is Freddy_Negrete. It's FREDDY _Negrete, NEGRETE. My book is Smile Now, Cry Later, Guns, Gangs, and Tattoos, My Life in Black and Gray. And you can get that right off of Amazon. And to have me, I tattoo at Shamrock Tattoo in West Hollywood. It's easy to make an appointment. You can just call Shamrock Tattoo 310-271-9664 and tell them you want an appointment with Freddy Negrete, and they'll go over about what you want and things like that. You'll get my number. You'll be able to contact me and send me your images, your ideas, and all those things. You just have to make the appointment first. I'm not, once you make the appointment, you're locked in, and I'll give you my undivided attention. And I'm booked up for about 3-4 months. So, getting a tattoo for me within a year is feasible. And I'm on Facebook, Freddy Negrete. That's about it.
Perfect. I'm going to have all this listed on the show notes. You'll be able to easily get a hold of Freddie. Just go to the SHAIR Podcast show notes for Freddie, and all of his contact information will be listed. All right, so let's dive right into the questions. So, Freddie, number one, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced to recovery?
I think God and my commitment, the commitment inside my heart that I was never going to use again. But like I said, I know I'm never going to use again, but now I need to find out how. So, that my experience, in treatment, and I support all these treatment programs. I think they're doing a wonderful job. I wish some of them were more affordable, and I understand there's a lot of, that's a whole issue. But, I really think that spiritual walk,
Yep.
that's what got me in the right direction from the very start.
All right. And so number 2, at what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accepted that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time had developed the hope that you could recover?
I think it was upstairs when I had that prayer with God, when I asked for more time, because it was right around then where I knew I was never going to use again. And I had an amazing spiritual recovery, so much so that when I had a heart attack, I continued to believe it, and see that awakening, So I think that was the point. That was really the turning point for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. It was, and a beautiful part of your story. I love it. So here we are. Number 3. Do you have a favorite book or video that you would recommend to our newcomers that you read or you saw in early recovery or even now?
The book that helped me a lot at first, was the first book I read. I don't get a chance to read as much as I really like to, but it was by my Rabbi Mark Horowitz, and the name of the book is A Holy Thief, and his story is just amazing. But his wife is in the book; she has a book coming out too, and their story is just amazing. He was like a real gangster, like a Jewish gangster guy, and he did some real low life shit. And there's my first cuss word.
I love it.
It would come when I'm talking about my rabbi, right?
Right.
Anyways, it's a great book, very readable, and it's cool to hear about his gangster escapades. It's hard to believe when I see him as my rabbi, but I do know about Jewish gangsters, so. And, there's this video that I recommend to everybody because I just discovered it on YouTube. It's about these amazing people in Borneo. They're nomadic people that live in the inner forest that are rarely ever seen. But these 2 brothers back in the 70s found them. And their religion or their spiritual walk with God is so amazing. And I learned so much from it because it's just fascinating. You have to see the video. You can find it on YouTube under Ring of Fire, Dream Wanderers of Borneo.
Excellent. That is going to be lifted in. Go ahead. Sorry.
I wish I had time to talk about these people, but just watch that video. You're going to see these amazing people that rely on God for their very survival every day in a real way, and I think it's really helpful. It's helpful for me, but it's helpful for us to see that God can work in your life in a supernatural way on the daily, and these people are alive because of it. It's an amazing video. All
right, I'm going to make sure that's also listed on the show notes, so folks, make sure to check out that video. And then number 4, what is the best suggestion you have ever received?
Wow, there's a lot of them. I think, and it's the one that I repeat a lot. It's like, you're going to have tough times because that's life. You can't get around it. Tough times are going to come your way, but you don't have to get loaded because of it. And there's a whole lot more deeper things about that, but I remember my sponsor telling me, that because, I think I was celebrating something with him, telling him this and that, and he's like, and this, I was telling him something good, and he goes, this too shall pass. And I was like, huh? And actually, I learned a lot from just that because, life is difficult, but it's a journey. And if you could see your tough times as a learning experience or a toughening experience, accept your hardship as part of the journey, then you can stand up and stay sober through it, Take joy in it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Take joy in it. So number 5, which is similar, if you could give our newcomers only one suggestion, what would that be?
I think it's this. If what you want to do is change your life and leave behind this struggle with drugs and alcohol, if that's what you really want to do, then do whatever it takes and do whatever you're told and just do it. They're like the Nike logo. Just do it, man. Do it.
Just do it. I love it.
And sadly, we we all, a lot of people when they have trouble, when they're using. I mean, I look back on my life and every breakup, every car crash, every phone loss, every hardship, I could look back and see that drugs and alcohol were involved in some way. So getting sober, of course, really changes, your life's dynamic, because all those problems that you caused because of using are going to be gone, and if that's what you really want, then you have to do what it really takes, and that means it's going to take some work. And that's my suggestion. Do you ask yourself, because you don't have to get sober, you don't have to get clean, you can go on using, nobody's going to tell you anything. I have friends that still drink and everything, and I have friends that have gone out, and I'm kind to everybody, a person. But if what you really want is to get sober, then do whatever it takes.
I love it. I love it. What an amazing suggestion. Freddie, thank you again so much for joining us, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Man, this was awesome. This was awesome. I can't wait to read that book. It looks phenomenal. All right. So we have now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida.
Thank you for joining us on the SHAIR Recovery Podcast. To check out the show notes page on this interview or to thank our guests for sharing their story, go to www.theshairpodcast.com. While you're on the website, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter to stay up to date on the latest news, podcasts, and interviews. Want to be one of our guests and share your story? Then go to our website and click on the Share Your Story button. We share our inspiring recovery stories every Tuesday, so subscribe to our show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio to get your free weekly download. We'll see you then. The opinions shared on this show reflect those of the individual speaker and not of any 12-Step Fellowship as a whole. And though we discuss 12-Step recovery and the impact it had in our lives, we do not promote or endorse any 12-Step Anonymous program.